Yeah, buddies! What's going on, everybody? My name's Aaron Ciotti. We're doing a daylight stream here today, fending off the COVID, and everybody pronounces it. Pronounces it? That's weird. Everybody calls me Ciotti. If you don't, I'll attack you physically. Let me turn this nonsense off so that you can actually hear me. The Zoom mic is working. Everything's working. I'm somewhat in focus. Today in the chat, we've got Airbender FPV, Bad Habit FPV, or RC, either or. Big Willie FPV, Brett Vogelsang, Chris Paget, Dan Richmond, Daryl Hickman, Espander, IMAX watching some movies, Jason W., John Dyson making some vacuum cleaners, Ken Hill, Kevin Durant, Mark Lilo, Morning View, alright. Off-Axis FPV, Omar Macy, Private Island FPV, RG, Mr. Huggy, Nathaniel LaBouffe in the house, Private Island FPV, RG, Richard Warwick, Sean Hussein, and that weirdo with a skateboard. Certainly not last but least, whatever. Best chat name goes to that weirdo with a skateboard. What a crazy YouTube name. Hope everybody is staying inside, not getting the virus, not spreading the virus, not doing all the things that you shouldn't be doing. Even if you don't believe it, just do it anyway, because you don't want to be that guy. I just read a story about a small company where, like a 6-person company, where the owner of the company forced everybody to come in and not work remote. And he got it. He gave it to the whole company and his 70-plus-year-old grandparents who are doing horrible now. And yeah, instead of letting his people work remote, they've all got the virus, and the company is completely screwed. So don't be that guy. Don't do that. Stay home. Let's ride this shit out. And yeah, a couple months from now, it'll be like it never happened. Or we'll all be dead. Either or. All right, so today we're doing Q&A as always. In terms of the Q&A, if you want me to read your question, you've got to do @CiottiFPV. A bunch of folks have already done it. Airbender, Proton to Go, John Dyson. When you type @ and then somebody's YouTube name, it lights it up in orange so that they can see it. For me, the chat goes just fast enough where I can't read everything, so I just look for the stuff highlighted in orange. For the longtime folks that have been here, do me a favor. If you see a good question, or if you just see a question in general that doesn't have me tagged, copy it, paste it, give the person credit, and tag me so that I can see it. Much appreciated. If you do that enough, maybe you'll become an admin, or a moderator, or whatever the hell it's called. And then you'll have even more work to do for no pay. Alright, so we're also going to fix some stuff. And we're going to talk about flying in the pandemic, if you can go out. That was the Hover Company? What was the Hover Company, John Dyson? If you can, get your ass out and fly. If you're near a city, get your ass out and fly. This is the only time that you'll have a chance to safely bomb some of this gnarly stuff in cities. If you go with somebody else, take separate cars, stay apart. Bump elbows, stuff like that. Try not to touch your face, which for me is completely impossible because I'm a neurotic mess. But I'm a good neurotic mess. You guys seem to like it, so I'm cool with that. Plus, I've realized recently that like my face just itches a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I am allergic to the whole world, so maybe it's that. But yeah, be smart. Don't be stupid. Don't be that guy or girl. And we'll get through it. I'm letting this thing get as walrusy as possible, but I am keeping this under control, for anyone wondering, which I'm sure is no one. Patreon, down here. Monday night giveaways. 4 giveaways every single Monday night. Instructions on the Patreon on which tier you get in to get in the giveaways. $5 tier is Tiny Whoop and Toothpick stuff. $10 tier is 3-inch micro brushless stuff. $20 tier is 5-inch stuff. $30 tier is all of them. So you'll be entered in the 12 giveaways a month. I did this so that if you only have a Tiny Whoop, you can only enter in the Tiny Whoop giveaway to get Tiny Whoop stuff. And I'm also going to try, like I always pick an item that is the giveaway, but I'm going to try to start asking people like, hey, do you have any use for this? If you don't have use for this, I'll let you know what some of the other stuff is that I have on deck, and we can maybe swap it out. The other good stuff on Patreon is a lot of PID tuning articles, a lot of filter tuning articles, reviews, props, reviews of props and motors and all kinds of fun stuff, early releases, rough cuts. What you guys just saw in the intro there will be put up on the Patreon page today. Yeah, lots of good stuff. I try really hard to make it worth your while, and I've found it to be like the best spot for me to push information out so that hopefully you guys don't make the same mistakes and waste the same money that I did. So there you go. Discord link down there as well. When you join the Patreon, you get special Discord stuff automatically. And FPV Therapy is a group over on Facebook that is near and dear to my heart. We've been going for a couple months now. This hobby tends to attract folks with mental illness issues, myself included. And one of the best things that has helped me out in the course of dealing with this over the past 15 or so years that I've known that I've had it is talking about it. Literally raising awareness, because mental illness tells you to not tell anyone, tells you that you're all by yourself and you're the crazy one. And that's just not true. Lots and lots and lots of people have it. 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 6, somewhere to that ratio. So every single one of you either has it or knows somebody that has it. And if you head on over, just search FPV Space Therapy on Facebook, you'll learn something today. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of us sharing our experiences. Every time I leave Talk Therapy Weekly, before I drive away, I sit there and I have a post in that group called Today in Talk Therapy I Learned. And before I drive away, I sit there and I just type like the main thing that I talked about with my talk therapist for the last hour. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on over there. Come on over. We recently did a little fundraiser for one of our members who is going to be laid up from a surgery for a couple months, and we got him a newbie drone brushless tiny whoop, and that was super cool. And he's putting edits up of it already. I actually need to no, actually he posted them over there. So yeah, lots of cool stuff going on over in that group. If you have any interest, come on over and we'll welcome you with open arms. Chat names, Patreon. Oh yeah, CiottiFPV on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. Message me wherever. I want to help you guys get stuff that flies well, especially micros, but also 5-inch stuff. Right. I think we're good to go. Let's see who has tagged me so far in the chat. John Dyson says, ooh, John Dyson is in the shutdown in UK. Keeping safe. Hope you're safe and well. I am, John. Hope you are as well. Stay inside. Fly tiny whoops. Airbender saying hello. What's up, brother? Proton to go. My problem is fixed with great success. I saw your responses on Facebook, Proton. Glad to hear it. Basically, Proton was having some issues with, I think it was Acrobats. It was 3-inch micro brushless rigs. He was having some tuning issues with them. He did something really good. Well, first of all, he checked for mechanical stuff, which is always the first step. Spun his motors up, and they were all smooth, good to go. Checked over everything. And then what he actually did, which I don't usually suggest, but it worked really well for him, is he just wiped Betaflight completely out. Which this is like usually my last step of troubleshooting, but it's interesting that he did it here. Because he had tried some other things. So he just wiped Betaflight out, got a clean slate, which is, like I said, that's actually a really good idea, right? Just clean slate it. God knows what could have happened in Betaflight, especially when we start changing stuff and troubleshooting and doing shit in the CLI. So really cool move. He wiped it out, and then he actually dropped so he followed my Patreon filter tuning procedures over. I've got if you're on Patreon, on the top there are like word cloud things you can click. One of them is Tech Talk. You can find it with that. There's another one that's PIDs. You can find it with that. He did the first couple filter reduction steps, which are really important, and then he went directly into his PID tune and just pulled the P and D gain slider down, so less P and D gains, and that really worked well for him. But now he's dealing with a little bit extra prop wash, which is to be expected. So we're talking on Facebook through this, but I'll spoil the surprise. The next step that I'm going to tell you to do is increase your D gains, and if you want to do that in the sliders, you can do that with the second slider down. I forget what it is, but second slider down controls the ratio of P to D. and you're going to move that down, because basically all that slider does is raise the P gains when you raise it up or lower them when you lower it down. So what I'm going to have you do, Proton, is lower that down. That's going to drop the P gain down. Well, actually, for you guys, it's on this side. It's going to drop the P gain down, and then I'm actually going to have you move your P and D gain slider, the third slider down, back up, and that's going to increase your D gain. So that's what we want to. That's what I want to try to do for you, is get you more D gain, which is going to attack the prop wash without increasing your P gain. So we're going to use those two sliders, right? See what I mean? We're going to use one slider to pull the P gain down, and we're going to use the other slider to push them both back up. So that you're going to end up with pretty much the same amount of D gain as P gain, which is okay because the D gain is riding on those the D mins. So the D gain sits on those D mins until it's needed, and then it boosts up to your actual D gain number. So your normal D gain number, that could actually be 100, as long as your D min isn't triggering all the time. When it goes up to 100, it's going to create motor heat. And it could cause some other problems. I would not suggest going up to 100 on it. I'm just using that as a drastic kind of example here. But yeah, that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to increase your D gain without increasing your P gain. And that's how you do it with the sliders, which is nice. The sliders keep the ratios and they keep everything sort of uniform, which is a good thing. My shirt is blowing out a little bit. Let me fix the exposure we got going on here. Well, you know what? I'll fix it manually with the blinds. How about that? How about that for low tech? There we go. That's a little better. Look at that. Daylight. Not much of it, though. Yeah, so that's where we'll go from here. But awesome that you got that straightened out. Very cool approach in just wiping Betaflight out. That's something that might take you a little bit extra time, but it removes a variable, right? It removes this like unknown variable of black magic of something going to hell inside of Betaflight. John Dyson wished he was a part of that family. What family is that? What family? John Dyson, what family? Tag me. What family? What else? We've got YouTube's thing scrolling way too fast. Thanks a lot, YouTube. Hey, John Dyson says that was the Hover Company. What Hover Company? John, you're confusing the hell out of me. Burn DSC says... hey, what's the max range of a typical 2.4 gigahertz transmitter? So I have had Free Sky, FR Sky, RXSRs out to a mile. So farther than you would think. That flight that you guys just saw and many others, I have had RXSRs way the hell out, and they've been completely fine. When I fly my 4S rig is the RXSR rig. When I fly that, I keep a little bit closer of an eye than normal on the RSSI value, but just like, I mean, it's just a lower power, I just think of it as a lower power version of Crossfire. Even if you're close to yourself, if you go and put the quad into a really bad situation where there's no bounce for your transmitter to bounce a signal to it, it's going to fall out of the sky. I've had the same number of Crossfire failsafes as I have Free Sky failsafes, which is very low, like 2, I think. Maybe I've had 3 on FR Sky, but yeah, it's more about you. It's less about in my opinion, as long as the gear is correct, as long as your transmitter antenna is fine, and as long as you've got your transmitter antenna pointed straight up, as long as your body is oriented correctly, so you're not flying behind yourself, your body is filled with liquid. Liquid does a great job at soaking up RF. So if you fly perfectly behind yourself with the transmitter right in front of your belly, and there's nothing in front of you for the signal to bounce off of to get back there, you're going to fail safe. Both Crossfire fail safes were because of that for me. So yeah, as long as you've done everything correct and you've got good antenna placement on the quad, 90-degree angle, and the antennas aren't chopped up, they're not inside of some weird material, they're not inside of the carbon, yeah, you'll get plenty of range with 2.4 gigahertz. I flew 2.4 for my first over 2 years of flying, and I had very, very, very few, 3, I think, that I can remember, fail-safes. So yeah, it's all about you and not nearly as much about the control link, Crossfire is so strong, like it is such a strong link that it lets you kind of fuck a lot of things up, and it'll kind of cover your ass because it's just pumping out so much power. But if you pay attention and if you just think through it, right, just think through your transmitter antenna having a donut of signal coming out of it, and just like look around in your environment and see, okay, is this going to bounce? Is this not going to bounce? Is this, you know what I mean? Is it going to get soaked up by something? That's much more important than the protocol that you're on. RG asks, what transmitter do you recommend for starters? FreeSky or FlySky? Definitely FreeSky. FlySky is known as Team Failsafe, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. I've never flown FlySky. I've known quite a few people that have, and they've pretty much all had more failsafe issues than the people that I've known and myself on FreeSky. So I would definitely go with FreeSky for sure. Espander says, I've bought a Mobula 6. Espander, I don't know if you're quoting this for Omar Macy or asking Omar to answer this as well, but we'll answer it. I bought a Mobula 6, so I want to know the answer as well. Oh. What was the question? Do me a favor, guys. Tag me and ask the question again. I'm just going to roll right on. We've got Omar Macy. Here we go. I think this is... yeah, there it is. Okay. Omar Macy asks, Mobula 6 reboots upon arming if the batteries are not new, less than 5 runs, but are fully charged. Reboots upon arming. That... okay, so when it does that, Omar... okay. Plug in the whoop, goggles are on, put your goggles on your head, transmitter, arm it. Does it instantly shut off, or does it like brown out? Like, do you see it? Hopefully you have your OSD in the goggles. If you don't put your OSD on the goggles with your the voltage that the battery is reading, put your warnings in there as well. See if it throws a warning. And then tell me what happens when you arm it. Is it just like instant, or is it like a slow like brownout? Certainly sounds like, my guess with the info that you have in this one sentence is that you have a battery that can't keep up with the load that the quad is asking for. I'm also curious, is the quad kind of like oscillating? If when you arm it, there's the PID tune is going crazy, or there's a bent motor. If you hear the motors oscillating instead of a nice smooth like bzz, if you've got like bzz, or any kind of like a vibrating sound, what could be happening is the gyro is picking up too many vibrations from something going on, or the PID loop is cranked way too high, and it's taking a little vibration and making it a big one. What could be happening is the motors are trying to speed up and slow down very violently, and that's taking all the juice. And that's just browning the whole system out. So it could be a couple different things. Give me some more info, and we'll continue to troubleshoot. Burn DSC says, what's the max range of a QX7S, I'm assuming, transmitter without any extra modules? Same as what we were just talking about, Burned. 1 mile. Oh, yeah, okay, you asked the other question. Good deal. Yeah, I run a QX7S and have for 2.5 years. So there you go. 1-to-1 comparison for you. Weirdo with a skateboard with the best name so far. What would you say is the best camera would be for a remix frame? Hands down, depends if you're talking about an FPV camera or an HD camera. HD cameras, Session 5, absolutely no questions. The Hero cameras are technically better, but they are not durable at all. And you will spend a ton of money replacing them at Best Buy over and over and over and over and over again. I said the same number of overs as the number that I've replaced for $40 a pop. So yeah, fuck the Heroes. Session 5 for life. If you're talking about the FPV camera, I am still a huge fan of the Micro Eagle. I don't care what frame it is. I will buy an adapter to make this thing work. I think the Remix frame... wait, what did you say? Remix or Reverb? You said Remix. Depends on if it's V1 or V2, maybe, but I know the V1 Remix takes a full-size camera. Caddx. You can get this over on Pyrodrone. Caddx makes a metal adapter plate for adapting a full-size camera to a micro camera. So I would do this. I would get this guy from Pyrodrone, and then I would run a micro camera. All the frames now are pretty much coming out set up for micro cameras. So I feel like you might as well dive in now rather than waiting. And yeah, get you some adapters, get you some micro cameras. You know, I guess I can't recommend the Micro Eagle anymore because it's not manufactured anymore. So scratch my Micro Eagle recommendation. And well, I've heard, and I hate to do this, but I've heard that the Falcor by Foxier is really good. But see, I like all these cameras that are discontinued. God damn it. The problem that I've heard with the Foxier Falcor is it can do white flashes, it can freeze, and it can sometimes go to like half frame rate, which is annoying until you're like diving a 1,000-foot high building. I'm sorry, a 399-foot high building, and then it's like kind of devastating. That's why I hate to really recommend something that I haven't kind of vetted myself. Well, all right, so the only one I can truly recommend that I've vetted myself is the RunCam Racer. The RunCam Racer is a CMOS camera. It works really well. It's nice and small. It's nice and light. Very durable little camera. And you can get a 1.8 lens on it that gives you about 160 field of view. So this is the one that I will straight up recommend and say this is what you should get. Other people have good luck with the Foxier Falcor, although I've certainly heard complaints about it, fair warning. And the Caddx Ratel, also heard complaints about that, although it seems like the Caddx Ratel either fails right out of the box because Caddx's quality control seems to be not as great. Go figure. You pay a little bit less for their stuff and you get less quality control. Kind of makes sense, right? I'm going to stop there. Oh, no. I've also run Foxier Predators, which are very similar to that RunCam Racer in that they are CMOS and nice and small, nice and durable, and you can get them with a 1.8 millimeter lens for 160-ish field of view. So that's where I'm going to have to leave that. From my experience, Foxier Predator, RunCam Racer. If you want to go into the Wild Wild West, there are plenty of camera reviews out there that you can take a look at. But I pay attention to the failures more than the reviews. The reviewers are testing something right out of the box when it's fresh, before it's been crashed and smashed and slammed. I don't care about that. I care about a camera that's been beaten to death and how it's held up. So keep that in mind. Look for the reviews saying I've beaten it to death and it's great, and or on the first crash it caught on fire and killed my children. Cool? Proton to get. Oh, come on. Not again. There it is. Started the slider workaround, but I need to increase that a bit further. Okay, cool. So it looks like you're already on your way. Captain Bowroot. All right. What's Bowroot, Captain? Has a Tiny Hawk 2 and Freestyle, both stock and loving them. What PID and filter tuning would you recommend? Also, which VTX and receiver upgrade for the Freestyle? Captain, if you're loving them and they're flying fine and you're not finding like problems with the tune, I would leave it. I'm a big proponent of just fly the damn thing. Put as many batteries as you possibly can through it. That's where the fun is. When you start screwing around and adjusting stuff, that's when the pain can begin. So if it's flying good and there's not like something specific that you're trying to correct, I would just leave it and just keep flying, man. You're in the wonderful part of this hobby. Once you start it, like once you get better, you'll start to notice more things in the tune that aren't working right. A lot of those you can fly around, which is a very valuable lesson to learn. That's the main reason that I say like just keep flying it, fly it as much as you possibly can. But eventually you'll probably want to screw around with the tune, and at that point, my opinion is to target the bad behaviors, not to just crank the tune and you know, placebo that, oh, it's so much better. So yeah, that's what I would do. Typical like tuning that we first start with the filters. If you're on, see, my face itches like crazy. If you're on 4.1, it's probably not on 4.1 with the RPM filters. That would be the first thing that I would do in terms of tuning, is get it onto 4.1 with the RPMs, and then reduce the filtering. Over on the Patreon page, I have a step-by-step guide. I think I may have actually even made it public. Step-by-step guide on how to reduce the filtering, which is important. When you just turn on RPM filtering, it actually adds more filtering than without it. The whole point is that you can then remove it in a targeted fashion so that you end up with less end-to-end latency, but better filtering, more targeted filtering. That's the whole point of RPM filtering. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. VTX and receiver upgrade, I would do the Ishi Nano. It's easy to get. It's super cheap. If you've got the money and you want the best, it certainly appears that it was copied from the TBS Pro 32 Nano. I would actually not recommend the Rush Tiny Tank. There are a couple of really glaring setup issues that made me even get really frustrated. I won't get super in depth, but like, I wouldn't recommend that for a novice. You'd get very frustrated. There's a couple things that they don't tell you that you need to do that make it run in pit mode right out of the box. The way that the pads are laid out, like, I understand why they did it. They set it up so you could run 2 cameras through it, but the way they labeled the pads was kind of insane, and I had to pull it back apart and put it was a pain in the ass that, in my opinion, unless you're trying to run 2 cameras through it, is completely unnecessary. So I understand what they did. It's great that that's available, but for the normal person, I would not recommend it. I would recommend the Ishi Nano and the TBS Pro 32 Nano as well. And then receiver upgrade, RXSR, depin it, Crossfire Nano, get one of the little tiny antennas. They make smaller antennas now for them. There you go. John Dyson says... Oh, Hoovers. Right, John Dyson said at the start of the stream I was building Hoovers, and I said I wish I was part of that family. Dude, just keep applying. Just keep applying and be like, look at my last name. You guys gotta bring me in. Burn DSC, cool, thanks. Is there like a limit to 2.4 gigahertz? Yeah, apparently the limit is about 1.5 miles. But with RF and with radio in general, there are about 1 million variables. The elevation that you're at, the air density that you're at. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of different variables. When I pushed it out 1 mile, it was only because I was at the beach, and I was at my beach that I lived 5 minutes from. So I knew that I could just walk along the sand and find the damn thing. Yeah, that's the only reason I would have. I was shitting a brick pushing it out that far, just pushing it block after block after block. And then as I turned around, of course, it judders and has a little tiny failsafe, as they tend to when you push really far out. But yeah, 1.5 miles is the limit that Free Sky says is real. So I would assume that's like the bitter end of the, the absolute limit. Burn DSC, nope, we just got that one. Weirdo with a Skateboard says, right, so I'm looking for a proper cheap micro. What would you recommend? It really depends. Do you want something to fly inside? Do you want something to fly outside? That's the biggest determining factor. If you want something to fly inside, I do have some opinions. If you want something to fly outside, I don't have a great feel for the outside bind and flies. I would actually tell you to build one. I would tell you to probably build Bob Rui's toothpick. I think his frames are in stock. It's such an easy build. You buy his frame. You buy the Runcam Nano camera. You buy the Newbie Drone camera pod for on top, and the all-in-one board and the motors, and you just plug it all in. It's straightforward. I guess there's a couple more things you got to do, but you got to learn anyway. So that's what I would actually say for an outdoor build if you're willing. What else? What else? What else? Mr. Sprinkles can't get battery voltage working on his OSD. Reflash Betaflight, but it still doesn't work. RSSI and VTX channel both work. There's a setting that I missed in the Betaflight setup. That's weird. Battery voltage. So what? I need to know what happens, Sprinkles. Like when you put when you put it in the OSD, does it show up as like 0? Like what happens? Just give me more info. Captain Bowroot has oh, okay. You were just repeating the question. No sweat. Tiago, isn't the Eagle discontinued? Yep. Andreas Heindel, what is your opinion about Spectrum and PPM? Should I get a new transmitter with S-Bus for my new build? My Spectrum and PPM info is solely based upon others. There are certainly some others that I trust who have had rough experiences with it. That's why I'm willing to say anything. But fair warning, I've not run it, so I cannot personally say it blows. But like I said, I've had plenty of folks that I trust who have tried it, and they just didn't have nearly as good of an experience as they did with FR Sky. So, yeah, I would say either go to S-Bus with FrSky or maybe just go straight to Crossfire at this point. I would actually say go to FR Sky first because FR Sky is really nice for micros and tiny whoops and stuff like that. You won't have to like range anxiety basically. So I mean that technically, if you've got the time and or money, I would say go to FR Sky, figure out if you like the shape of the X9D or the Jumper T16 or the QX7 or whatever, and then you can get a Crossfire module for that. This way you're covered on the best small little tiny link, which is FR Sky in my opinion, and Crossfire for long range fun. John Dyson, have you looked at the Phoenix? Oh yeah, the Phoenix 2 camera. That's another really good one. The Phoenix 2 camera is very, very similar to this Runcam Racer. I think it just has a bigger lens. I think it's got an M12 lens on it, and there might be a couple other subtle tweaks to it, but I'm sure the software and the sensor and all that good stuff are pretty much identical to the Runcam is going to keep as much the same in their different camera line as possible, and if it's a CMOS and it's in a micro body, it's going to be very, very similar. Good call though, John. Thanks for calling that Phoenix 2 camera out, because I've heard from a bunch of people that it's a really good one. How about lenses, Mr. Blair says? Would you recommend freestyle versus race for micros? Lenses are a very subjective thing. Personally, for freestyle, I prefer the widest angle that I can possibly get because I try to kind of push the limits of flying backwards and sideways as much as possible. I like to do a lot of like pull away stuff. If this is the subject, I'll kind of like climb it a little bit or like pick up all sky and then snap back towards it and give you this moment of like, oh, I just saw sky for a second, and all of a sudden the building is much farther away. Or just doing really slow rotations where like having a wider field of view when I'm rotating backwards will catch maybe a tree coming in at the very edge of the frame, so I can make a quick correction to not smash into it. So for me, I'm a big fan of wider angle stuff. I also don't shoot a lot of small gaps at full speed. So that's where the other side of the equation comes in. If you're shooting gaps or just flying fast, less field of view would actually be better, because it's like zooming in. It's literally like think of like a zoom lens on a regular camera. Less field of view is more zoom. Wider field of view is zooming out on the camera. Just keep that in your head, and then that's how you want to determine what you want. I've heard racers say, I like the most zoom possible, the smallest field of view possible, so I can see the gates at a distance. I've heard racing pilots say, I want the widest field of view because I corner very early to prepare for the gate, and I don't want the gate to go, if I'm really rotating hard, I don't want the gate to go off the side of my view and not be able to see it. So again, totally depends on you. Just keep that in your head. Less field of view means that you've zoomed the camera in, right? You have less of a field of view now. You can only see my chin. More field of view means you've zoomed the camera out, and now you can see a wider area. It's a name in Slovenia, Captain Borut says. No way. Very cool. I dig it. Borut. I'm into it, man. On TH2, when coming out of a power loop at full throttle, I get wobble. TH2, Tiny Hawk 2. When coming out of a power loop at full throttle, you get wobble. Okay, sure. So that is... there's two things going on there. A, the fact that you've got guards, ducts around the props, that's the biggest problem. Tiny whoops do that. It's called tiny whoop washout. It sucks. It's annoying. I get it. The other thing is you don't have enough D-gain. So what I would actually do for you, I would ignore the sliders and just go to your D-gain. Leave everything else alone. Leave it all alone. Go to your D-gain and move the roll and pitch D-gain. Do this instead. In your PID menu, you've got presets, 1, 2, and 3. 3 different profiles. They're up on the top. That's the left. Top. They are on the top left. Top left. You've got profiles 1, 2, and 3. Leave profile 1 alone. Go down to profile 2. Add 10 points of D-gain to pitch and roll. Go to save it. Go to profile 3 and add 20 points of pitch and roll D-gain. Save it. Go back to profile 1, do a couple power loops to get yourself in the habit of generating that prop wash. Land, put it on profile 2. Do the same thing. See if it's any better. Land, go to profile 3. Do the same thing. Check if it's better. In between those steps, make sure the motors aren't getting too hot. Make sure you're not getting like oscillations instead of zzz. You know, you always want to make sure the motors are nice and smooth. You don't want to hear any bouncing back and forth. That's the motors trying to speed up and slow down as hard as they possibly can. Go figure. That's very difficult, and it generates a lot of motor heat. So keep an eye on your motor heat, but see if it gets any better. Get back to me. Message me somewhere, or if you're still doing it while we're in here, we'll talk about it. Tag me, blah, 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 blah. Isn't there a new Ishin Nano V2? I think I might have heard grumblings of that, Tiago. The existing one is so damn good that, I mean... And for $12, it's like, what the hell? But, yeah, I don't know. Sentry Player asks, what do you think about Tattoo lipos? I had a really rough relationship 2 years ago with Tattoo R-Line batteries. The 4S 1300s just did not hold up. Lately, I revisited them because they have the lightest, cheapest 6S battery available. It's a 1050, and they're phenomenal. They just demolish all the other 6S 1050 1100 kV batteries I've used, which have been the Pyrodrone Graphenes and the GNB from Race Day Quads. So, and now I've started to get some of the Tattoo R-Line 650s and 850 4Ss, and they've been great too. So I'm back aboard the Tattoo train. What I can say, and this is true of all of the high performance batteries, is they don't hold up to abuse as well as China Hobby Line. So China Hobby Lines have held up to the most abuse for me, and they're the heaviest. Go figure. I've been able to over discharge them, smash the shit out of them, and they just keep going and going and going and going. But they're heavy. The GNB batteries, which are what RDQ's batteries are, they're just white labeled GNBs. They're somewhere in the middle. They're a little bit lighter. They seem to have a little bit less sag, but they're not quite as durable. If you over discharge them a bunch of times, they'll be shot. They seem to be pretty physically durable, but not quite as physically durable as the China Hobby Lines. Then you've got the expensive batteries, the Thunder Powers and the Tattoo R Lines. These are the lightest. These are the most expensive. These are the most fragile. But the performance gain is real. So, in my opinion, the batteries that you run should come from your flying style. If you find yourself over discharging batteries a lot, don't get the expensive batteries. You're going to ruin them. I am really hard on batteries, but in my recent move to 6S, my run times have gone from 3 minutes to like 5 minutes. So when I get to like the 4th minute, like 4 minutes 30 seconds, I'm kind of done. Like I've explored as much as I kind of can. I've you know, got a couple good lines in of a bunch of moves that I think I'm going to pull out and use for the edit. So I'm good to come home. So when I start to see that low battery warning, I'm usually like, all right, I'll come back. Whereas when I was at 3 minutes, I would be like in the middle of something interesting, you know, as that low battery warning would come on, and I'd be like, no, I got to push through this. So yeah, totally subjective decision for you. There's my experience. Do with it what you may. Proton to go. Why don't you use beepers on your brats? Do you find the beacon to be loud enough? Absolutely. Proton, the ESC beacon, I turn the volume up a little bit. I double the volume in BL Heli. Man, my face itches like a motherfucker. I'm trying to like specifically not touch it. Maybe if I touch it all at once. God, I'm allergic to everything. Yeah, I double the volume in BL Heli or BL Heli 32, and they're plenty loud. And then I also will use, if it's really far away, I'll use the model finder on the goggles, or just take off your Omni and have only your patch antenna and rotate your head around. And when you get the cleanest signal, just walk straight. Do it again. Just clear a signal, walk straight. That's how I find missing quads. It's always worked. I haven't lost one yet. Sentry Player, we covered that. Ishi Nano 2, we covered that. Jesse Williams owns a Brat V1, and the next frame I buy will be another Brat. So should I stick with a V1 so the parts are swappable, or make the upgrade to V2? Really good question, Jesse Williams. I'm in the same sort of predicament where I have a bunch of V1 stuff, and now I also have a V2. So the V1 stuff is going to be very hard to get. I've talked to Tommy about this, and so my recommendation would be to go after this stream, or right now, find as many V1 backup parts as you can, namely the side plates. Those are the vertical plates for me are what I break the most often. Try to get 3 or 4 of those, and then maybe 1 extra base plate, and then transition over to the V2. Because it's going to become harder and harder and harder to find those V1 parts, and the V2 is better. The V2 is a better frame. Maybe even just bail on the V1 altogether. Right? If you can't find replacement stuff for the V1, I would bail on it now and move your build over to the V2 frame. How about that? But if you can find some... The V2 frame is a little bit better, but it's incrementally better. It's not like definitely bail on the V1 right now better. So yeah, there's some options for you. Proton to go. After I use the PID sliders, it set the D-term multiplier back to 1.0. Should I leave it there or push it to the right because prop wash? D-term multiplier. What's the D-term multiplier? Why can't I think of what the D-term multiplier is? What? D-term multiplier. Why am I completely blanking on that? Plugging in a V1 Acrobrat to fire up Betaflight to see what the D-term multiplier is. Let's bring up the other monitor. What? Work. Why are you not working? Ah, that would be because I didn't plug it in enough. Hey, there we go. PID tuning. Nope, not receiver. PID tuning. D-term multiplier. D-min gain, D-min advance, feed forward transition. D-term multiplier. Enable sliders. D-term master multiplier. P&D bounce. I don't know what D-term multiplier is, Proton. Hook a brother up. Moved it is set back to 1.0. It makes me feel like you're talking about the feed forward transition. Might you be in 3.5.7? If you're in 3.5.7, I don't know. Just tell me. I'm not going to speculate. Captain Boruut, you're certainly welcome, man. Glad that we could help. Let me know how it goes. Weirdo on a skateboard, right? I'll be more specific. What you'll recommend for an indoor micro. Awesome. Thanks, Weirdo. That's fun to call you Weirdo. No offense, though. No offense, of course. Indoor micro. So, if you've got the money, in my opinion, the Newbie Drone brushless is the way to go. The Newbie Drone Acro B brushless. There's a lot of things that I really like about this, and I think it's the most upgradable setup because the board will take 2S. And you can just go on their website and buy it. If you want to spend a little bit less money, the Mobula 6 has a better camera. It's got a better KV on the motors, much higher KV on the motors. The problem with it is the board is an unknown. A lot of the boards fail on it. So if you're going to buy a Mobula 6, buy it from Race Day Quads, buy it from Pyrodrone, buy it from CiottiFPV, because when the board fails, you don't want to have to ship it back to China. So that's it. Those are the two that I'll recommend. I'm looking forward to spending some time with an Emax Tiny Hawk, but they are a little heavier. God damn it. Stop itching. Yeah, those are my recommendations. Omar Macy, tried a variety of batteries and it reboots within a second of arming. With new batteries, it works as intended. It seems like it's really sensitive to sag or amp draw. Yeah, Omar, the Mobula 6 has very powerful motors. The 25,000 kV is a lot. Take the props off and spin the motors up in the motors tab in Betaflight. See if one motor is drastically louder than another. That could be where the vibrations are coming from. After you do that, you might as well try dropping the PIDs down a little bit. Drop the Ps down by 10. Drop the Ds down by 5. See if it gets any better. And get back to me, and we'll keep troubleshooting. Proton says in the filters tab, it's... right. Okay. Filters tab... determ multiple. Yeah, it moves it back down to 1. I don't know why the hell it does that. Now push it back up. Keep these two multipliers even all the time. If you move one up to 1.2, move the other up with a 1.2. If you move one up to 1.5, move the other up to 1.5. Yeah, good question. I don't know why it does that. It's weird. Weirdo says, honestly, I'll take Weirdo as a nickname. Awesome. Oh, cool. All right. And hey, look at that. We're caught up. Very cool. Let me go take a dump. I'll put some... Sorry. I'll give you guys something else to watch. Hey, man. Hey. Don't judge. Don't you judge. Let me put... I'll put some music over this so that you guys don't just hear... to make it a little bit more interesting. All right, here you guys go. Let me find a good yeah, everybody poops. Indeed. You missed my Zoom question above. All right, let me get it, Blair. Did you tag me? You didn't tag me. Where's it at, Blair? I don't even know if you're talking to me. My one LED light is dying. Let me turn it down a little bit. I'll get a little bit more life out of it if I turn it down. There we go. All right. That's not enough to do anything. Yeah, there's a little kicker light there. All right. I missed your guys' questions. Do me a favor. Copy and paste them for me, and when I'm done shitting, I'll answer them. Sorry. Tag me in your questions, though. At CiottiFPV space, type your question. Sprinkles, I will answer your OSD question. Do me a favor, copy and paste it, though. Here's 9 minutes of flying from yesterday. Dump those questions on me again. Tag me. And, yeah, Nathaniel, I'm usually pretty good about... Yeah. Let me get a hot jam going here. Let me find something for you guys. Try to find a red hot one, man. Come on, come on. All right, we'll go chill with the jams. We'll go with some chill jams because I was kind of flying pretty chill. All right, here you guys go. I'll be back. All right, I'm back. What a fucking red hot jam. All right, where's Spotify? Spotify, take it easy. Okay, Steel's coming. Let's everybody be nice to Steel when he gets here. Me and him are gonna go fly Mercedes-Benz Stadium after the stream. Oh, speaking of, here, hold on. I need to get batteries on the charger. Well, if you liked it, you're getting some more. EBI. Think about okay. Don't be gross. It's gross enough that I was talking about it.
Hey, boy. Hey, bruh. Hey, 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 hey.
All right. Better. Got them batteries on the charger. Pausing this. Pausing this. Pause. Oh, God, I almost threw up. Pausing that. All right, there we go. All is well. Let me kick this guy on just for a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Or I could just open the blinds a little bit, you know, get that natural thing. Okay, whose questions? Mr. Sprinkles, where's your OSD question? The voltage thing. Yeah. Dude, that's super weird. Tell me more though. Tell me what's coming up on the OSD. Is it like 0.00 volts? Also try the main voltage and try the average cell voltage. Put those both in your OSD. Oh, you already answered that. Betaflight and the OSD says V 0.00. Okay, so then next step is to go into your power and battery tabs, and you want to make sure that the voltage meter source is on onboard ADC. And nope, it's this keystroke. There you go. Make sure you're onboard ADC, and then on both of them, and then make sure that it looks somewhat like this. If that's not the case, I guess like the I guess whatever the hell reads the voltage could be broken. I've never run into that before. That's a really interesting issue. Yeah. So VBAT comes in from the ESC to the flight controller, and then there's some sort of a current sensor on the flight. So this is what I can say. Whatever it is that's reading that current on the flight controller could be dead. And I've had a situation where the VBAT in stopped working on the flight controller. The ESC had a 5-volt out, so I ran the 5-volt out from the ESC, supplying 5 volts of power. I ran that to the 5-volt, to any old 5-volt pad on the flight controller. That then spread that 5 volts of current around and ran the flight controller, but I didn't get any. I got the same situation that you're saying here, whereas I got no voltage readout, which at the time was fine. It got me back up in the air, but there's something to help with the troubleshoot in your head, right? Like whatever. Yeah, that's all I can say. I haven't dealt with that problem. That's a really interesting problem. If you still can't get it, message Joshua. He's much better at the electrical stuff than I do. Interesting. Let me know what it is. I'm very curious as to what the hell's going on there. But My guess would be that the whatever the hell that onboard ADC has potential. It sounds like it's failed, which is annoying, but not the end of the world, I guess. Run timers. Run a timer on your transmitter and run the timer in the OSD, and just be like whatever, or just replace the fucking flight controller. Mr. Blair says, can I use the zoom option in the camera menu, or should I be changing lenses between flying race versus freestyle? What a fucking great question. Been using the Rotor Riot Micro Eagle Joshua edition. Thanks. If you use the zoom in the camera menu, that is a digital zoom. So that is taking all of, so your camera sensor is here, and it's got 11 billion pixels on it. When you tell that thing to software zoom, it just stops using the pixels on the outside, and it just digitally crops in. The problem with that is you're wasting a bunch of these pixels on the outside, right? So you're taking the pixels in the middle of the sensor and you're just blowing them up. So you're actually losing resolution. So it's better to do it with the lens, but the Micro Eagle has a bigger sensor, a physically bigger sensor. So by using the digital zoom, you're basically kind of like just turning it into a regular any other camera. So it's a lot better to be doing that on the Micro Eagle than any other camera, right? Catch my drift? But it's better doing it with the lenses, for sure. Great question, man. Great question. Okay. Sprinkles. Sentry Player's got a small quad that takes XT30 3S. Which durable battery would you recommend for 3S? Sentry, if you can find it. Well, okay, you said durable battery. So most durable, China Hobby Line, hands down. Also the heaviest. Second most durable, GNB. Considerably lighter, or RDQ, same thing. And then performance-based, least durable, Tattoo R-Line. There you go. There's your spectrum of the batteries that I've had the best luck with. Another really good question. Good job calling out that you want a durable one. Espander is testing a bad motor in turtle mode on the... Really? So Espander says that testing a bad motor in turtle mode on the bench killed his flight controller's voltage regulator. How is that even possible? Can a voltage regulator be fixed, changed, bypassed? Fuck me, that's weird. If that killed the entire flight controller, then you can actually do what I just said. If your ESC has a 5-volt out, or if you just buy one of the little $1 or $2 iFlight 5-volt voltage regulators, they're tiny, tiny, tiny. You can put that in line, send 5-volt to any of the 5-volt pads on the flight controller, and that'll bring the flight controller back to life, but you won't have the voltage. That is weird that turtle mode blew the voltage regulator. The only thing I can think of is maybe was that motor stuck and you fired it up to full bore and you sent it all that current and it was a stuck motor, and that's one of the hardest things you can do. But that should blow up the ESC, not the voltage regulator on the flight controller. My guess would be that that's just a coincidence. It just happened to blow up when you were doing that, because there's no direct link that I can think of between the voltage reg and the motors. But who knows? If the motor was stuck and you sent it all the current, that stresses the shit out of the entire system. So maybe the voltage reg was like on its way out, and then that's all it needed was that little kick in the ass. I'm not really sure. I feel like there was one more person that said that I missed their question that hasn't reposted it with my name tagged. Can you guys do me a favor and scroll up a little bit and see if you can find it and tag my name in it? If you do find it, it's 409 at 500. I'm shutting this mother down because I want to go fly Mercedes-Benz Stadium with Monsieur Steve. Okay, cool. So we're good on the chat. What else did I say we were going to do? Things. Hey, Sentry with another question. Wants to buy a Toolkit RC M8 balance charger. I've heard really good things about Toolkit, and the next charger that I buy will be one, because this is the second ISDT Q6 that's being a dick and acting up. The first one failed completely, and this one is just being dumb. but it has an XT60 port. Can I just solder a converter from XT60 to XT30 for a lipos? Am I screwing up that? Nope, totally fine. Absolutely do that for sure, Sentry. Even better yet, get a parallel board. Be careful with it, because parallel boards can be dangerous, but if you're careful, they're totally fine. When you get a parallel board, they'll usually have an XT60 lead, and then if you get one of the XT30 parallel boards, it'll have all XT30 connections. You won't even have to screw around with making an adapter. Even if you, like, I would just get the parallel board full stop, because it adds like a nice little lead, so it tends to be easier to then plug your batteries into it rather than picking up the charger and like, so like a parallel board for me, even if I'm going to charge one battery at a time, I still use it. It just gives me an easier spot to plug it in. My worry is always that if I'm fucking around on the side of the charger trying to get the balance lead plugged in correctly, I'm going to get it like one slot over and it's going to catch on fire and burn the whole world down. But yeah, I'm a big fan of parallel boards. As long as you're careful with them and you don't plug batteries in that have drastically different voltages, you should be totally fine. There's plenty of info out there on how to not fuck up using a parallel board. As long as you read that and you're not sloppy and you're not in a hurry, you'll be completely fine. Weirdo with a skateboard. Sorry for not making sense, ran out of letters. No worries, man. No worries, brother. Do I still owe you some sort of an answer? Let me see. Scrolling up a little bit. Man, my nose is so itchy. You guys have no idea. I'm trying so hard not to scratch it. Weirdo, I can't find the thing where you're not making sense. So just do me a favor, type it or copy and paste it or figure it out. Albert Maulana. Unify VTX signal is so bad. Change the antenna and the SMA adapter. Still looking bad. Should I change my VTX? Not in pit mode. Using TBS Unify 800 milliwatt 5 volt. I think you've hit all the things. Check your VTX tables. Make sure you're not in pit mode. If you're in pit mode, it'll be very, very obvious. Like when I'm in pit mode, I have to look at the quad with the patch antenna to get any signal. As soon as I lift my head up or turn my head away from it, it's all static. So it's pretty obvious whether or not you're in pit mode. Make sure the VTX tables are correct so that you're not like in 25 milliwatt, I guess. VTXs do fail. Even the best VTXs will fail. I've used Immersion RC Tramps forever, and they've been absolutely phenomenal, but I have had 2 fail. 2 out of probably about 6 or 7 that I keep running at any given time. Unifies are a little bit more expensive, so potentially a little bit nicer. But hey, they can fail. The other part of the equation could be your module and your goggles. That's easy to test when one of your buddies is flying, or if you have another quad, fly it. And if the signal's fine, you've really isolated it. It sounds like you've already really isolated it to the VTX just being bad. And I wouldn't even necessarily say, hey, change brands. Yeah, I would say just get another one of those if you already have it wired up. If you want to change brands, sure. Immersion RC Tramp is $10 less. It's not 5 volt. It's a VBAT. But I wouldn't, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily say change brands. The 5 volt Unify is a phenomenal VTX. Sounds like you just got one that shit the bed. That sucks, but hey, it's part of the game. Now it's constant. Great. Now my nose is running. Now I have full-on allergies. I have full-on COVID. Sentry player. On that board, I gotta have all the batteries around the same volt. Am I right? What do you mean? Oh, yes. So my cycle is I get home, take all my batteries out that I ran, hook them all up to a voltage checker, and I'm looking at individual cell voltages, and basically I will only put batteries on the parallel board that are 0.1 volt off. So individual cell voltages will be anywhere from like 3.5 to 3.8. So I will group them up by the 3.5 and the 3.6. Well, you just go through them and like line them up, whatever, lowest to highest voltage. and then yeah, just try to group them up so that they're only like 0.1, maybe sometimes 0.2 volts per cell different from one another. So that, because here's what happens, right? When you plug the on a parallel board, everything's connected. Every single port is just wired on traces to one another. So you plug in one battery to the balance leads, so it's got 4 cells if it's a 4S, right? So you've got 4 individual cells that are, say, like 3.5 to 3.6. You plug another battery in, those 2 batteries are instantly connected. So if that other battery has 4 cells that are 4.2 volts each, it is going to pour all of that juice, all of that electricity through those traces into that other battery. That's hard on both batteries because one of them is getting charged very rapidly. The other one is discharging very rapidly. It's hard on the traces. It's hard on everything. Lots of heat happens, and it can go bad. So 0.1, if you want to stretch it a little bit, which I do, 0.2 difference per cell. Those batteries, you can safely plug them all in. The higher ones will dump to the lower ones quickly, but it's not enough of a dump to really generate much heat. And then Bob's your uncle. Since you said XT30, you can't do this, but for the XT60 folks, little known fact, the Joshua Bardwell boards have fuses built in that clamp to 1 amp. So you can be a little bit more lenient with plugging in the balance, and always plug in your balance leads first, because the XT60 is the whole voltage of the whole goddamn thing. So in that situation, it's so much worse if you plug the XT60s in, because you've got all 4 cells pushing full steam. So always plug your balance leads in first. If you do that on the Joshua Bardwell boards, the 4S, 5S, 6S boards, the little fuses will clamp at 1 amp. So you can plug batteries in that are like 0.3, sometimes even 0.4 per cell different, and they will equalize at 0.1 amp. Thing you got to be careful of is that those fuses can get hot. So if you're going to do that with more separation than like 0.2 of a volt, sit there and put your, like, I'll just put my finger on the fuses to see if they start to heat up, and then I'll pull it if they get hot. But yeah, you can, like, when I get done flying, I pull the Bardwell boards out, not plugged in or anything. And I just plug in I still check the voltages, but I plug in almost all my batteries, because I almost always have a spread of 3.5 to 3.8 per cell, and that's enough. That spread is small enough where those fuses on the Bardwell boards will clamp down to 1 amp, and they'll sit there and equalize for 10 minutes, and then I can plug the XT60s in, plug it into the charger, and bring them all back up to 420. That is not like an approved thing to do with the Bardwell board. That is something that he told me specifically, like, hey, check this out. So if you blow your board up doing that, don't come crying to me. Don't expect a replacement from Strix or RadioMate RC or Joshua. You're at your own risk. The fuses, Mr. Blair just mentioned fuses. The fuses, the replaceable fuses are only on the XT60 on that. Tiago, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this since quad camp at Joshua's house. That's when he told me about it, so probably about 1.5 years. And I've had no problem with it. So your mileage may vary. It sounds like Tiago is basing his comment off of actual science, which is good. But hey, your mileage may vary. Albert Maulana has a question that we already answered, as does Century Player. And Mr. Blair received some LED race wire from iFlight. It came with 4 pieces and also 4 cables that are identical to the connector for a typical FPV camera, 3 wires. What are those for? I don't know. Mr. Blair, do me a favor. Copy and paste me and tag me on the description of those exact race wires, because I need to look at them to figure out what that's for. My guess, why would I have 4 though? The only thing I can think of is that they're the 4th channel is the LED pad channel to make them addressable. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me. But if you if you just comment, it won't let you leave a link in the chat, but if you just copy and paste the name of the item, I'll search for it on the Google machine and find it. But that's the only thing that makes any sense. 3 channels for the motor, and then 1 channel for the addressable. Protein to go. When flying, I'm often forgetting about tricks I could do. Will that get better with time? Should I play memory to increase my brain P gain? Protein, I used to have, well, I still do. I haven't looked at it in a while. In notes on my phone, I would list stuff like that out, and then I would try when I got to the spot to just look through it real quick, or like in between batteries, I would look through it. It will get better with time. I'm a little bit of an oddity in that, like, I try very hard to not do tricks. I try to just what some people call flying the camera. For me, it's flying a camera. I was TV radio at university. That's what my degree is in. I shot stills for a lot of years. One of the greatest things about this hobby for me is that I can take a camera and put it anywhere, in any orientation, at any speed. So, after I had after the technical side of my flying was somewhat like decent, and I was somewhat confident in it, I really tried to shift over to more subject-driven flying, trying to find a subject and flying it in an interesting way. And that has just snowballed kind of out of control to the point where I have to remind myself to fly a little bit harder, or else I'll just fly super smooth and cinematic the entire battery, and that can get a little bit uninteresting maybe. But yeah, I think it'll get better. It did for me. The whole tricks thing, like, I'll do an inverted yaw spin and not think about doing an inverted yaw spin. I just happen to be looking for a way to show the area that I'm in a different manner, right? Like, if I've flown around normally, right side up, let's say, and shown the entire area, if for some reason I throw myself and I'm in a good spot to do that inverted yaw spin, I don't even really think about it. Like, my brain will just start to do it to show the location in a different way, in an inverted way, because that tends to be what's going through my autopilot brain when I'm flying, is like, just keep it interesting, keep showing the space that you're in an interesting way, or the subject that you're flying. If I'm chasing something, I'm just trying to keep it fresh when I'm flying and show things in an interesting way that's not going to get stale, that you're not going to get like a minute into the video and be like, all right, he's done everything, I've seen him over and over and over again. So there's something for it. I don't know if that helps, but that's sort of my approach. What else do we have here? Roscoe, what is up, my friend? Here we go. Okay. Wait, no, I think I missed something. Sentry Player, Sentry Player. What do the settings need to be just for one battery, or would I need to do it times 3 if I plug 3 batteries into the parallel board? Great question, Sentry. So you can increase the output. Okay, so let's just use 1,000 milliamp batteries, for example. 1,000 milliamp battery is, you should technically charge that at 1 amp. It's that's how it works. Per 1,000 milliamps, you want it at 1 amp. So if you plug in 3 1,000 milliamp batteries, you can turn it up to 3 amps and charge it. Some people I run them up at like 3 or 4 or 5 amps per 1,000, and it's been no problem whatsoever for me. But the safe way to do it and the best charge for the batteries is at 1 amp. So yeah, and that scales. So basically, plug all the batteries in and just sit there and look at them and do mental math on the milliamps to get you a total milliamp number, and then there you go. So if the total milliamp number is 5,000, you can charge totally safely at 5 amps. If the total milliamp is 1,500, 1.5 amps, right? And if you look around here on YouTube for a couple other like parallel charger intro or parallel charger safety, you'll find a ton of videos getting more in depth to that. But that's a quick once over for you. Espander says the motor wasn't stuck, but was very slightly scraping the cracked magnet. Flight controller died when I popped RP. Yeah, see, that doesn't... There's no reason that should have caused such a spike in power. And that's weird. That sucks, but that's just the name of the game sometimes, man. Our components are not very reliable, unfortunately. Albert says, that's the old VTX. I'm using 7-month-old. I think I should change it. Yeah, I would just change it. If it's 7 months old, that's a pretty good run. Is it true that when using full power VTX makes the VTX more easily broken? Not really. Here's the only thing that really matters. 5 volt versus VBAT VTX. The only difference is which 5 volt BEC you're using. If you're using a 5 volt Unify, then you've got it plugged into the flight controller. So the flight controller is getting full voltage, and then it's got a 5 volt BEC on it, and that converts it to 5 volts, and then your VTX is pulling off of that. Or if you get a VBAT VTX, you're plugging it directly into the ESC or directly into the VBAT feed from the flight controller, and then it has the 5 volt BEC on it, which does that conversion. So some people think that they would rather have that BEC on the VTX, so that if it fails, they can just ditch the VTX, or they would rather just leave it on the flight controller. I run a flight controller that's $28, so it's cheaper for me to replace a flight controller. That could have, I don't know. There's no right answer. The other thing is the VBAT Unify is huge. That's why I've never run them, just because they're way too big. So that's a real thing. Steele's here. He uses the 5 volts forever. Hey, Steele, why did you settle on the 5 volt Unifies rather than the VBAT ones? Is it because they're huge? Let's ask the man himself. What's up, brother? All right. While he's answering that, while we've got the correct answer coming from Senior Steve, I can keep answering some of these other ones. Martinia says, best 3S diatone quad. I have no idea. Do this. Look up Nick Burns here on YouTube. He is the man for testing bind and flies. He's one of the only micro reviewers that really flies the quads a lot before putting the reviews out, so that you can actually get some durability data from him. And he's a really good pilot. In my opinion, he's the best pilot of the reviewers. So look up Nick Burns' channel if you aren't already on there. If you go to his page, there's a search in the channel field. So you can just go to his channel search and type in diatone, and that should pull all of the diatone reviews. And trust that man. He is a great pilot, a really smart guy, great reviewer, and just a genuinely nice human being. So yeah, get on that Nick Burns game. If at some point I can maybe get linked up with Diatone, maybe they'll send me some stuff for review, and I'll have an answer for you. But I can't afford to buy bind and flies just for testing. So we'll see. Who knows what the future will hold. Sentry Player, gotcha, thanks, man. What would the charge duration be on the Tattoo 450 MAH 11.1 volt 3S on a parallel board? So you would be, for that 450, if you were only to plug one in, it's going to be 0.45 amps is how you charge it at 1 amp. And then the charger will beep like mine just did when it's finished charging. The charger looks for the resistance to spike, and that's when it will beep and say, hey, I'm done. It also looks at the total cell voltage. It's going to stop right around 4.2 volts. So yeah, you should be good. You pretty much only need to, on most chargers at least, you only need to tell it what amp rating you want it to charge at, which is essentially how hard it's going to push on the batteries. GWFPV, liter 2.5 with Allen props, 1106 motor. What are Allen props? Avon props, I'm assuming? Avon props. My motors get hot at hover. What should I change? Also using a ZOE prototype battery. Please help. GW, do me a favor. Message me at CiottiFPV on Instagram, Facebook. If you're on Patreon, over there. And it's too much for us to get through on the stream here. I need to ask you a bunch of questions. But I want to help you. So message me. We'll deal with it offline. Joshua, and I'm only doing this because I really want to go fly with Steel in half an hour. I could talk for a half an hour about about how to fix that, but let's just do it one-on-one. Joshua Kermai, help needed advice. Broke Larva X HD frame. Is there any 2.5 to 3 inch frame that would fit a 3-stack FPV camera DVR board VTX? Chat, I'm going to turn to you guys. Do me a favor. Hook G-Dub up. Not G-Dub. Hook Joshua Kermai. Tag him at Joshua. Tag him with some 2.5 inch to 3 inch frame options. I don't really have any because I kind of fly like a spec version of my frame that hopefully someday maybe will come out. Probably not, because every engineer that I've worked with just disappears on me. But yeah, I'm not going to fall down that ranting, raving rabbit hole. I don't know. I don't know a lot of the other frames out there, and I don't want to... frankly, there aren't a lot that I like. So I'm not a great person to ask that. If you still can't find anything, Joshua, message me, CiottiFPV, Instagram, Facebook, and I'll do some digging for you offline. But I bet you the chat can help me out, because there are a ton of people in this chat that are very, very knowledgeable, whose opinions you can trust. A lot of them, if their name is in blue, they're an admin. I make people admins when they are, helping out and knowledgeable. So yeah, you can trust them. Captain Bo Root on his Tyro 129 kit from Banggood. Five standoffs are missing. From your experience, will Banggood replace them, or do I just order new ones? They should replace them. It's going to take forever for them to get to you. I would just jump onto like Pyro Drone or RDQ if you're stateside, and just order some more. They're pretty cheap, and you'll probably save yourself a lot of waiting. 5, dude. Jeez, not just one, but there's 5 missing. Jesus Christ on a crutch. Off-axis FPV, would you put JESC on a 5-inch build? Abso-fucking-lutely, I have, and I will again, and it works great. Joshua Kermai, help needed advice, bro. Okay, we got to that one. Joshua Kermai. Okay, repeating. EBR FPV, please share the cheater code for God mode in Betaflight. EBR FPV, the cheater code is... You go over to my Patreon page, link down here somewhere. For $3 a month, you can get in there, and at the very top of all the posts, there are the tags that I use the most. There is a tag called Tech Talk. You're going to hit that. You're going to read through all those posts. There's another tag called PID. You're going to hit that, read through all those posts. I have enough info in that Patreon page that for $3 whole, you can get the cheater code for God mode. Everything that I do to tune Betaflight to where it flies the way you saw it in the videos when I was shitting and the opening of the stream, it's not nearly as hard as you'd think. If you get confused, you're going to message me on Patreon, because that's what I check the most, or Facebook and Instagram, and we'll get you locked in. Although, fair warning, the stock setup now in Betaflight with the RPM filters turned on is damn near perfect. Unless you have bad behaviors outside of that, yeah, there's not going to be much else that we can that we can do. Probably a little bit of a tweak here and there, but in a lot of cases, that stock tune now flies just perfect. Great question, though. I love it. Mr. Steve's motor stop and PIDs are broken. Please help. Need some advice on a beginner setup. Okay, so for motor stop... All right, so phase 1, we need you to switch over to Betaflight. Steel. Oh, man. Oh, I'm going to get yelled at for that one in 26 minutes. There he goes. Okay, Steve says he likes the 5-volt Unify because it's small as fuck. That if I were to run Unifies, and the thought has crossed my mind, the second one of my tramps that stopped working, which is in a build right now that I have to swap. So it might not have actually stopped working, but I think it did. I thought about it. I thought about moving over to Unify 5 volts, but the tramps have been really good to me. The testing that I've seen shows that on the higher channels, like race 5, 6, 7, and 8, the tramp actually outperforms the Unifies. But then on the lower channels, race 1, 2, 3, 4, the Unifies outperform the tramps in terms of output power. And I run race 8, race 7, and race 8. Steel runs race 8, I want to say, and he's never had a problem, so could totally be conjecture, or could have been that specific tramp and that specific Unify that were being tested. But yeah, I don't know. I also have the Rapid Fire, which is an Immersion RC product, so I'm kind of like, well, I'm sure that they did the majority of the testing with tramps. That might have something to do with it, might not. But that's just my thought process. I don't think you can go wrong either way. They're both fantastic. The other reason why I run the Tramp is it has a little heat shield, not heat shield, heat sink built in on the bottom. So I've read a couple times that it deals better with like having the antenna unplugged or being hung up in a tree at 600 milliwatts, just pounding away. They both reduce their power, so it should be fine either way. But hey, heat sink is a good thing. It's not heavy, whatever. No wrong answers. Either one is great. Okay, Joshua repeated the question again, and I think we are pretty much caught up. G-Dub says I'd leave... G-Dub would leave himself to go fly with Steel. Ken Hill telling me to make Steel an admin. I beat you to it, and I remembered to do that. It's not going to go. Nice. Thanks, Steel. Helping some folks out. Captain Bo Root. Are those M3 standoffs for the Tyro? Oh, I don't know. Thank you, Screw Banggood. Order them locally. Don't screw Banggood. You're getting what you pay for, right? You pay less money at Banggood. You get more half-assed packaging, more half-assed whatever. Banggood is a great company. I had a period of time where I was the same way. Fuck Banggood. In starting to do this live stream and now talking to, this right now is the EU stream, the rest of the world stream, the not US stream. And a lot of those folks don't have local shops and they can literally only order from Banggood. So the fact that Banggood ships worldwide is a huge deal. So yeah, no more talking smack on Banggood, anybody, myself included, because for a lot of people in the world, they're the only resource. And to be totally honest, when I look back, not through the lens of, screw them, they dealt with a couple customer service things with me really well. Like, yeah, the shipping took a long time because it was coming from China cheaply, but they hooked me up and got it done and got it fixed correctly. So I can't really complain. If you order from somewhere on the other side of the world, you're going to get everything that comes with ordering from something from the other side of the world. Even if their customer service is phenomenal, unless you're going to pay a bunch of money, you're not going to get it quick, right? So get what you pay for. All right. Let's do 20 minutes of work on something. Oh, look, their live chat's working now, too. Thanks, Sentry Player. That's good to know. Okay. Let's do. What was the title of the stream? I really try to front load the. Oh, hello.
You want to sit
Oh my God, Kristen brings me coffee. Now I'm gonna have to shit again.
No more poop.
Well, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. You want to keep it for later? Okay.
Yeah. Ooh. Her coffee's usually bitter as shit. You put a ton of sugar in that for me, huh?
That's the only way you like it.
Damn, son.
I like it, but it's not my thing.
Oh. I gotta poop again. No, not yet. It'll be like 10 minutes from now that I'll have to shit. It'll be like storming the beaches of Normandy. Alright. Good. Batteries are charged. Good, cool. I'm good to fly. I just need to pack a little bit and we'll be all set. What else did I say I was going to do here today? Anything? Anything interesting? Fixing shit, flying the pandemic. Also talked about flying the pandemic. You guys should all do it. Just don't rub... Oh, M3 standoffs. Yeah. Good call. What's that rig called? Tyro 129? I'm going to look it up. Tyro 129. Not with a question mark. Okay, let's see. I might not... That was odd. I might not be able to tell from the pictures, but we will give it a try. Let's see here. For Just gonna open a bunch up and see what we can see. Okay. I mean, right off the bat, they do look like M3 standoffs. Does it zoom? When I do this, does it zoom for you guys too? I don't actually know if it does or not. I hope it does. Yeah, those definitely look like M3 standoffs. Yeah, those are for sure M3 nutties. So yeah, those are M3 standoffs. Let me just look at one or two more pictures of it to be sure. Yeah, this is I didn't even realize it's a 5-inch rig. Why is it called a 129 if it's a 5-inch? Yeah, 5-inch rigs are all on M3 standoffs for sure. M2 standoffs are very rare. So yeah, there you go, man. You are welcome, Captain Bo Root. And I don't have a single opinion on them, Sentry. I've never flown one. I've heard that they're good, but I really try not to just blanket kind of say, yeah, they're good. So, yeah. At DH for life tag him using CiottiFPV. All right, so I'm looking for DH. Where's DH? Why won't you see my question? DH for life says because you're not doing at CiottiFPV, but because ESK Race hooked you up, I'm now looking for it. What do you think about the Radio Master TX16X? I don't even know what that is. Let's take a look. Yeah, DH, there's like a little bit, the chat now runs, as I've gotten a little bit more popular, the chat runs a little too fast for me to see all of the comments. So at the beginning of the stream and usually at the halfway point, I try to mention, like, if you want me to see your comment, just tag at CiottiFPV so that it lights up in orange for me. Okay, yeah, the Radio Master. So this is the jumper competitor. It looks pretty good. The specs look really good, but I don't recommend a goddamn thing until I've personally used it a bunch to know if it's reliable or not, and or heard other people that I really trust that have physically used it before. So I can't really give you an answer because of those two reasons, but it should be good. It's about all I can kind of say. I've been using a $100 QX7 radio for the last 2.5 years, and it has not let me down once. I have big, long, gangly fucking fingers, so it fits my hands really good. And yeah, that's my radio of choice. But these new ones are pretty interesting. They have color screens, which are kind of fancy, but don't really make you a better pilot. So your mileage may vary. But it looks good. The specs look amazing, so it should be good. I don't know. When this QX7 fails, or just if I get two brain cells to rub together and realize that if my transmitter fails, I can't fly, I'll buy an extra one. I won't buy one of these fancy new ones. I'll just buy another QX7 to have as a backup, or if this one does fail, to replace it. It works. With the M9 gimbals, it feels great, and I don't know. I'm used to it. Okay, DH for life. Hey, nice. Hey, you tagged me. Awesome. Way to go, DH. Now you know. That goes for like everybody too. Joshua, if you don't tag him, he's not going to see it. The chat scrolls so fast. It's from the internal team of T16. Interesting. So it's a jumper radio. Oh, cool. Should be good then. The jumper T16 has been awesome according to everybody's feedback. I've flown one and I forgot that I was flying something different than my radio, and that's high praise. If I don't notice a new thing, that means that it works well enough that it's not holding me back from anything, which is all that I could ever ask for. So there you go. Let's do a little tiny bit of fixing over here. Let's turn some lights on and switch over to the bench cam. I'm going to move the mic. I'm going to move the chat. And fair warning, it's going to be harder for me to catch things in the chat, but All right, sound's back on. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the warning. The OBS, man, just awful, just awful. Okay, so this is the giveaway quad that Kelly Davis won for the 100 patron giveaway. Once over on Patreon, I set a goal that if we hit 100 patrons, I would give away an entire build. And this is that build. I was getting it tuned, and the flight controller started to act up, so I wanted to I wanted to switch the flight controller before I sent it off to Kelly to make sure that it had something that was a little bit more reliable, really well tuned, totally locked in. If we get to 200 patrons, we've hit a bit of a brick wall for some reason at like 100. It's really like plateaued, which is fine. The Patreon thing is just it's really fun. It's not there for I do not plan on making FPV my career. It would be cool, but it's kind of unrealistic if I'm totally honest with myself, and that's fine. The Patreon thing is just for funsies. If we hit 200, I can easily afford to give away an entire build, basically. So I'll give away another build that'll probably be a 5-inch at that point. But yeah, so this is the 100 build. Oops, didn't want to do that. And we are going to get it all going on a CiottiFPV Lumineer Micro Lux V2 flight controller. And on my other monitor here, I am bringing up a wiring diagram for it because I don't remember how it's wired. What's happening? Why did that happen? Come on. Okay. There we go. Come on, don't do that. There we go. Okay, so I pulled the other flight controller out, which is a Maytech F411. And now we're going to start getting this Lumineer in. I've got these really interesting, these are actually Tiny Whoop grommets that I've adapted to the little 2020 for some nice soft mounting chocolatey goodness. And yeah, pretty straightforward build, non-HD, little RXSR in the back, MIMIC VTX made by UBAD, interestingly enough. And then little Immortal L, a la Mr. Steve, who's in here at the moment. And then here's the VTX antenna just set up. Nice and simple. Nice simple little setup. This rig flies really well, though, on 1304 4000s. Really nice little 3-inch build. And I'm sure they'll be happy with it. So let's just get some of these wires kind of organized here. I kind of going fast when I pulled this thing apart, so it's a little bit of a mess. So let's just get the RXSR wires together, and then this is our VBAT. For some reason, a lot of these small 20 by 20, like micro specific 20 by 20 ESCs don't output VBAT in the plug header for some weird reason. This one is ground and then a blank plug and then signal 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to piggyback this is more of a thing for the older 20 by 20s. So you have to pull VBAT directly off of the battery pad, which, a little annoying, but not the end of the world. And then here we've got our camera leads as well. All right, so the first thing we always need to figure out, as you guys are probably sick of watching me do by now, is how we're going to orient the flight controller. This flight controller has tall enough rubber grommet bastards on it so that was the old one versus the new one. See how much taller the black ones are in the new one? So I'm not going to need these little plastic washers that I have in here on the from the previous setup. So let's get these guys off. It looks like I might even have 2 on each. If you don't have a set of really fine-tipped tweezers like this, get yourself a set. I think down below in the description I've got some Amazon affiliate links to these and some other really good useful tools. I guess I forgot to mention affiliate links. There's a whole bunch of affiliate links down there. There's some to Banggood, there's some to Amazon, there's some to CiottiFPV, The way that affiliate links work is if you click one, it drops a little cookie into your browser that says Aaron Ciotti sent you, and whatever you order, even if it's not that exact item, I get a little tiny percentage of that order. So if you want to support me for free, that's a really good way to do so. And I would super appreciate it, even though I'll never get to see it. That's okay, because I will feel the love tonight, and then I will hold a small lion up to the earth, and a fantastic song will start playing, and it'll be great. Okay, so the height, so it's gonna fit in terms of height. We've got plenty of clearance on the from the USB port, and I'm pretty much not. So the other way to, you always want your USB port to be facing outwards. So the other way to orient this would be like this, with the USB port on the opposite side, but then that USB port would want to conflict with our plug header. So I'm not even going to entertain that idea. I'm just going to do it this way because everything else looks kind of decent, although I do actually have to think about it because my camera wires are really short, so I am going to try to get this in a way that the camera pads are facing towards the front. So let me look at the wiring diagram real quick for that, which is over here. Signal ground, UART, okay, 6. Okay, so there's the VBAT. So the VBAT is across from the USB, so that's good. That means the VBAT is on this side. That's perfect. I might even be able to shorten that. That's pretty cool. On the top of the board, which is what I'm looking at now, let me find where the video signal is. Okay, so this chip is in the corner. Okay, so the video in is... Oh, the video in is right next to the video out, so that's interesting. And that is here. Hey, perfect. Okay, yep, so this is how we're going to build it. Okay, and then on the bottom, we've got all 4 motor signals and the ground, so that's perfect. Let me go back. Is there anything else on the bottom? The only other pads on the bottom are UART 6, TX and RX, and I don't think that I'll need to use that. So I think I'll be able to do everything from the top of the board. Let me just make sure this VTX does not have smart audio, so I won't need a UART for that. The RXSR does need one, though. So I only need one. I only need an S-Bus and one additional UART, and it looks like that's going to be fine because there's a UART 3. Yeah, we're good to go. Cool. So let's push this down a little bit. I don't want to push it down so far because then the tops of the screws will get in the way of the soldering iron. Soldering iron is heated up. My sponge is dry, which is annoying, but that's okay. I'm just going to use the little steel wool bastard. I've been trying to use the sponge more, as you usuals will know by now. But I'm not going to walk away from the stream again to go get it wet. Yeah, that's what she said. All right, here we go. Let's solder some shit up. I'm going to work away from myself towards myself so I'm not crossing over my own pads. And when I look at the wiring diagram, that means I'm going to do video input and then video output and then ground and then 5 volt. So let's get our little camera wires situated here. All right, so let me do this to make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to unplug this. And I usually try to not unplug these because they have a life cycle of plug-in unplugs, but sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's worth using that to make sure that you can bring the work to you and solder properly and not bridge pads and all that other bad shit. So, all right. What did I say? Video in first, right? All right. So, video in first. Oh, you know what I do want to do real quick, though? Since it's the next one I'm going to do is video out, I want to get the VTX leads headed in the right direction here, which is going to be the front. So this VTX is going to want 5 volt. Is there anywhere else that I can pull 5 volt from? And there is. It's right next door. And is it over here? I think it's over here. Current? Yeah. It's over here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to break these up. I'm going to... Because I want the... you'll see it in a second. You'll see in a second why I'm doing this. But I'm going to pull this video wire out of this little cluster. I'm going to wrap the 5 volt and ground up. They're going to actually come over here, and they're going to wrap on the... they're going to wrap up the flight controller on this side, and then the video has to go to the front. So let's just make sure that there's enough... Yeah, there's enough leeway. Now I'm going to put this back down, and you'll see what I mean in a minute as to why I did that. Basically, I did it so that I don't have to put 2 wires on the 5 volt and ground pads up here. I can just put the camera ground and 5 volt in the front, and then I'll put the VTX ground and 5 volt on the side there. So let's knock this shit out. We're going to go video. And tack that down. All right, let's do it the right way, and we will tin the tip. These are small-ish pads, but not bad. Pull this over a little bit here. There we go. That's a good one. So that's video in. Now we've got video out, and that's coming from the... Well, that's going to the VTX, and it looks like I didn't get that quite right. Around the little standoff here. Come on. Come on, you jerk. There we go. Cool. Here's the video out. Let's get that wrapped up and under. Just make sure it kind of... Use the memory of the wire to hold that angle. And then we're going to grab it here. And... drop it down. Try to make sure that when I'm making them do this angle here, that you get it nice and flat on the pad. You don't want it at a 45-degree angle like it's doing now. You want to make sure that it... Basically, the closer that you can get the wires to the pad itself, the stronger that connection is going to be. Solder is terrible at being physically strong. It's good at passing electricity, but it's not good at being a strong, solid connection. Now, holding the physical wire from pulling. So if you've got the pad, and then if you've got a millimeter of solder on top of the pad, that's going to be a lot less strong than if the strands of wire are sitting against the pad and the solder is all around it. So we got the video in, video out, and now we're getting the ground for the camera. And I'm being sloppy and lazy and trying to skip steps by not tinning the tip of the iron, which sometimes you can get away with, but this was not one of those times. Ground pads are always going to be harder because they are connected to one another. So always be a little bit more patient on the ground pads. Make sure that you're, make sure you do everything right. Use flux, tin the tip of the iron, clean the tip of the iron. Don't be like me, skipping steps. I can kind of afford to skip steps because I've been soldering for a long time. But when I was learning to solder, I didn't know about the steps to skip, and I had a really hard time. It was really hard to learn, even with a father who was an electrical engineer for 30 plus years and worked on a plasma fusion reactor. It was still very hard for me to learn. So those of you that are having a tough time, it's not just you. It is kind of all about... Hey, it's 3 o'clock. It's kind of all about the fundamentals. If you've fluxed properly, if you've done all these fundamental things properly, soldering will be way, way, way easier, and your joints will also be a lot better. This joint is okay, but the wire is up a little bit, so I'm just going to take another second to get it down. And usually when I do that, I won't use the tweezers to grab it. I'll just use them to push it down. And I'm just going to get the little top of that off there. My phone's going bananas. All right, so we're at 5 o'clock, but I want to finish soldering up this video package. So we're going to grab the the VBAT line here, and we're going to put it onto the VBAT pad, which is there. And I am going to shorten it a little bit, I think. No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it long, just in case this flight controller needs to change at some point. But I'm going to run it, I'm going to secure it, basically. So I'm going to run it under like this and try to feed it out the side. Hopefully you guys can see that. Come on. Come on, little fella. There we go. Oh, nope. Ah! Get in there. Got it this time. Hey. Yeah, so I'm just going to do that with it to kind of future-proof this build a little bit, if that makes sense. All right, and that's going to sit on that farthest pad down there. I don't know why I just put these down. All right, let's get this going. And Sentry, you're welcome, man. Hit me up somewhere if you need any more help. All right. And the next pad over is current, but this ESC does not have a current output, so we won't be using that one. Tin the tip of the iron to get some flux on it. And that is a horrendously ugly solder joint. Yeah, that one's not quite so bad. It's still pretty bad though. Let's fix it. Trying to push down a little bit with the tip of the iron to flatten the wires out. Alright, let me strip back a little bit more of this sheathing. Nah, you know what? Let me just pull it down. Let me just pull the silicone down a little bit. There we go. There we go. That's going to be better. There was just not quite enough of the exposed wire to get a good solder joint. That looks terrible. Come on. Copter says Patreon won't let him join. What? That's weird, Copter. Hey, Copter, if you have Facebook or Instagram, can you message me on one of them and we can figure that out? That sounds super weird. I don't understand that. That's very strange. Maybe I need to do something. I'm running out straight from here, though. And I'm probably not going to remember. So do me a favor. Just reach out to me. I don't go on Discord as much as I know I should. What the hell's going on? Why is this not... Oh, it's because the temperature was turned down. It's a long story. We'll be all right. Thank you, though. Temperature was turned way down. That's why I was struggling. There we go. That's better. Hey, that's a good one. All right, so now the VTX has power, and now the flight controller has power. Now I just want to do this VTX 5-volt and ground, and we are out of this mother. And it's the last two. 5-volt and then ground. Cool. So we're going to do the 5-volt first. And the solder. So we're going to go 5 volt here. It's a little too close to the ground pad. There we go. That's better. 5 volt, and now we're going to do ground. And that's the majority of the wiring done. Now I'll just need to do the Betaflight setup. We'll do that tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern. Come on back if you'll be awake. And we'll do some giveaways. We'll finish this up. I need a little bit more solder on here. And yeah, we'll have a good time tomorrow night. Wednesday night streams are always a blast. Whoa, that was a solder ball right onto my wrist. Try that again. Okay. There we go. That's better. Not the best. Let's just flatten it out a little bit. Taking extra special care on this one because it's not going to be one of mine. It's going off to the wild yonder. So I want to make sure it's extra durable, neat, and tidy. Come on, I just want to get this. It keeps wanting to lift up on the pad a little bit. I just wanted to get it. I want to get it flat on the pad. And when that happens, the problem is not your right hand. The problem is your left hand. Your tweezers need to be what is guiding the wire and pushing the wire down, not the tip of the soldering iron. If you're pushing down with the tip of the soldering iron, as soon as you pull the soldering iron off of it, it's going to lift back up, and you don't want that. So your other hand needs to be controlling the wire, and then your soldering iron hand is just snarfling the Garthog. No. Is just applying heat. That's what you want to think of it as. The tip of the soldering iron is just applying heat. It's not controlling the wire in any way. There we go with that. And let's get this over here. Just going to fly through this real quick. I am going to need 5 volts for the... so I am going to end up needing to put two wires on these 5 volt and ground pads, because there are no 5 volt and ground pads in the back for the RXSR. And ooh, this is gonna be a close one. This is a tight one, just barely enough distance on this wire to reach this S-Bus pad. Man, that's... I feel like I might have had this flight controller in here at some point, because... Or I feel like I had this RXSR on a build with this flight controller, because this is like the perfect amount of wire length to reach this pad. Although usually I try to leave a little bit extra, but I didn't used to. I used to wire everything exactly to try to save every possible gram. And eventually I realized that that is not the best way to do it in case you ever need to take your shit apart. And you should leave a little bit extra. I try to leave just enough extra where it'll reach to the opposite side of the board, right? So that regardless of what, like, a worst case scenario, that pad moves from the near side to the opposite side, you're still going to be able to reach. And then, all right, so then we got to do 5 volt and ground. Let's do ground first. It's, of course, going to be the biggest pain in the ass. So on this, I'm going to grab it right with the tip of the tweezers. I'm going to put it flat. I'm going to clean it. I should actually flux it, but I'm going to put a big blob of solder on here on the tip of the iron, which will have flux in it. You can tell that by the smoke. Push it down, and of course, the existing ground pad that was there pops off, which is the problem with double stacking wires. So now the fun begins. These two pads have now bridged, but of course, so let's unbridge them. I know that went quick, but to unbridge them, I just basically heat both pads up in between, and then I pull outwards, out away from the board, and that will almost always clear them, or unbridge them, I should say. So yeah, now I'm going to do that one more time just to be sure that they're not bridged. Alright, so there you go with that. A little bit of extra solder here. Alright, so let's get this ground one done. Hopefully the pain in the ass about doing this is that, like, if one of the wires, like memory, wants to leave it hanging out real nice, you're fine. And hopefully that's the case. But if they both keep trying to spring away from the pad, it can become a real pain in the ass. Of which I really don't actually have a good solution for yet. But luckily I don't typically have to do this. So it's not something that happens very often. But let's see what we can do here. Alright, let's get a little more solder on here. There we go. That's a little bit better. And okay. Almost there. Simon says favorite camera FPV Micro Eagle. But now that you can't get them anymore, I'm going to have to find a different one. Although I did stock up on Micro Eagles. I have a bunch of extras, so hopefully they'll last me a while. And there we go. Yeah, that last one was good. It kind of just slid over for me. All right, so let's see how it goes with a 5-volt wire. I'm going to try to do the same thing where this one here should sit nice and flat. I'm even going to run it under the ground wire, just so that the ground wire kind of helps with holding it down. Yeah, look at that. So all I got to do is put a little angle in it, and it probably won't keep trying to spring away from this pad. So basically, if you're going to do this, whatever the bottom wire is going to be, you need to get that wire's like memory so that it wants to sit flat on the pad, if that makes sense. So move the wire around, bend the wire, bend it down, figure out whatever you have to do for this thing to just naturally want to sit down on the pad, because as soon as you try to bring that second wire in, you have no control. See that? See how it's now wanting to sit down properly? When you bring that second wire in, this first wire is going to want to try to run away. So you got to get it onto the pad. So let's see. This does want... It's trying to spring over to the LED pad, but it's not that bad. Let's see if once it's tacked down, it will behave. Okay, so let's give this a shot. I have a feeling it's going to try to move over on me, but we'll see. It's worth a shot. It's worth a quick try. All right, nice big blob of solder on the iron to get a bunch of flux in there, and we're good. So what I did is I put this other wire kind of like on the side, so to speak. The side that it was trying to run away to. So when the solder warmed up and started to flow, it pushed itself. The one that was trying to move pushed itself into the one that I was laying on there, and it stayed off of the LED pad. But I think it just bridged with the ground pad, which is just terrific. That makes me so happy. All right, so now let's go back to the original one. Make sure it's not grounding on or jumping. You guys know what I mean. To the LED pad or the ground pad. All right, now we're good. Not bridged. Let's try this one more time. Oh, way better. That's the one. Always check your work. Good to go. Push down on the pad, nice and shiny. Let's give it a little bit of fingernail action to make sure it's not going to break off. Good to go. Ground is good to go. Rest of these guys feel nice and strong. And S-Bus. Yep, there we go. All wired back up. I'm going to shut this shit down and go fly. Come on back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And maybe I'll have some super sick footage from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for you guys. Thanks for hanging. Stay inside. Do the right thing. Don't be that guy. And we will get through this shit together. Message me if you have questions, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. Later, everybody.